after being able to sit back and absorb all the information for a day, kind of came with a thought process while reading articles and hearing what people had to say and all that good stuff, that what is the real problem with this team and kind of what do we do going forward. So let's talk about this. What is up, Finn fans? Hope you're having a fantastic Saturday morning. We have college football today, so obviously this video's out early, and then y'all can go watch college football if you're done watching this or listening to this, because again, this is also on podcast form. Go check it out. Link is in the description, or just look up DouglieDoWrong. I think it's a podcast about the Miami Dolphins or something like that, and follow it. But yeah, so Thursday kind of sucked, but it also kind of shed some light with some of the information that came out about the block punt and about a ton of other things that we're going to get into. There's some articles. There is an article that I want to go over as well from Barry Jackson, kind of talking about Tua's contract and other things that happened over the past couple days. But before we jump into that, I do have to shout out today's sponsor. Talk about them a lot. Obviously, they're the official sponsor of the channel. It's Sleeper. Be sure to go check them out. Fantastic fantasy app. I talk about them a ton, like a ton, and it's fun. The Pick'em League, I do have a Pick'em League on there. I think we have like almost 300 people in the Pick'em League. I did fantastic last week. I only got 2 wrong, so go check them out. Again, use the promo code DDW. Some of you guys have said, hey, I use the promo code DDW. Fantastic. I love it. So go check it out. Let me know what you think of it. So let's jump into this. So Thursday sucked. Myself included. I thought we were going to get blown out. And then we didn't. And we're super competitive. And it took 2 costly mistakes to lose us the game. And again, if you remember the way I talked about it in the preview, and I reiterated this in the post game, that we could not have mistakes. You're playing the Buffalo Bills. You're playing a team that is head and shoulders better than you are. He needed to be perfect in some sense of it, because obviously we weren't perfect. We had 3 and outs on offense. Our defense couldn't stop anything for the first 3 quarters. But we needed to be perfect. And unfortunately, in the 4th quarter, we had 2 fatal mistakes that lost us the game. And we had fatal mistakes against the Patriots that lost us the game. And they aren't as good as the Buffalo Bills. So again, you can just imagine. Now, the biggest question is Mike McDaniel, right? And his hot seat, and is he going to get fired? Now, I said yesterday morning or Thursday night, depending on when you watch the recap video, that he's not going to get fired, right? They were too competitive. The team is still playing very hard for him. He did play called a good game for a good 80% of that game. Where does he stand? Now, I will say this. Tomorrow's video, either tomorrow or Monday, let me know below. I know tomorrow's football Sunday, so maybe you guys want to watch that, and Monday I'll do it, because I unfortunately can't do film breakdowns because I get copyright claims. So the film breakdowns are going to be exclusive to the Patreon. So if you are a patron, you'll get your film breakdowns. They'll be out Tuesdays. This one probably be out tomorrow or Monday. But again, it has to be exclusive to Patreon because I get copyright claimed and striked if I put it on YouTube, which sucks, because I'm editing it and I'm reacting to it and fair rights. But the NFL, it's the NFL that is claiming it. So there's nothing I can really do about it. So again, to the patrons, you guys get it exclusively there. And if you want to join the Patreon, is linked in the description. I am going to react, though, so I think I'm going to do it Monday, to Kurt Warner's breakdown of the interception. And it's a hot topic. He has come out and he has responded because a lot of people are pushing back on him. We'll go over that, actually. You know what? In this video, screw it. Let's go over it now. Changing things up. Shifting on the fly. You have no idea where I'm going with this. Let's get it. Because I was going to talk a little bit quickly about Mike McDaniel's job security, but I kind of want to go into what he had to say in the film breakdown, because we're going to go into it. We're going to listen to it because he put it out, right? So we're going to go watch that. But some of the people responded to him, right? And some of the people were super critical and super, angry about Tua. I was one. I thought it was a stupid interception, really sealed the game. Now, this one person said, with all due respect, how can you justify a quarterback with the game on the line, staring down the running back in the flat, then turning and throwing it to the inside receiver without checking to see if the linebacker vacated? It takes a split second to see that the linebacker hadn't moved and was just sitting there. And then Kurt Warner replied to that saying, that split second is easy, huh? Again, this is a Hall of Fame quarterback. He says, amazing breakdown. I learned a lot of every single time. It's humbling at the same time because I realize how much I don't know when I'm looking at film. He says exactly why I try to do it. This person said, regardless of the play design, is the quarterback supposed to stare at the receiver the entire time and have zero read post snap? Having said that, when 90% of the passes are under 5 yards, defenses have a huge advantage. And he says, did you watch my video? Quarterbacks have to read defenses. So when people think they are staring down the receiver, they're actually looking in the direction to read the defender and choose between two options on that side. You can't just look down the middle of the field and turn and throw a blind eye to the wide receiver, because then you would say, didn't he even see the defense over there? Staring down a receiver, which he put in quotes, is an overused term by many who don't understand the position and simply see a quarterback looking into the direction they throw it to. When I watch quarterbacks, I look for the quarterbacks that get their head to the right spot of the off the jump, because that tells me they know what they're doing. Now, again, Monday, we are going to react to Kurt Warner's film breakdown to see exactly what he was talking about and what he had to say. So this person said, this is such a great football talk in this one play. Why did the interception happen? He says, what did you want Tua to do with his eyes here? Which, interesting. He said, for all these former quarterbacks telling me that Tua had to read both the safety and the mic before throwing a quick snag route on time, I'm starting to question if I was a fast processor or not, if I just wasn't as good as the other guys, because no way I could have done that. So there were other quarterbacks and other football players coming out, like Dan Orlowski, and saying, I disagree with Kurt Warner. And again, Kurt Warner saying, apparently no way I could have done that. And he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, no, not knocking Dan Orlowski, but if I had to choose between the two guys I'm going to listen to the Hall of Famer and the Super Bowl winner. This one says, the overanalyzing of the Tua interception is crazy. Sometimes blank like that isn't so deep. Brunskill got lit up. Tua had to get the ball out quick. He made the throw a million times. Kurt Warner replied saying, true, but then sometimes if you look a little deeper at the details, you say, even with all that, there is something that could have been done to make it harder on the defense and to make the play. This other person said, are all these quarterbacks that are telling you this a Hall of Famer, Kurt? Do they have a Super Bowl championship also? He says no, but that's not the point. A lot of guys could play the position and all play at a high level in the NFL, so I'm trying to truly understand if they could do it, and I couldn't. So again, he's not knocking Dan Orlowski. I'm knocking Dan Orlowski. Someone said, well, to be honest, how often did you just throw the ball without looking? No matter what he saw, no matter what he was throwing the ball, what if wide receiver fell down, ball sails right to the corner? Kurt Warner says, I anticipated and threw before a guy was open a lot, in caps. It was one of my superpowers. There's times it cost me when things didn't play out exactly like I expected. And again, people put this stigma and say that Tua is a spot thrower. Kurt Warner is kind of saying, I've heard Drew Brees say it, I've heard Kurt Warner say it, and I've seen other quarterbacks say it's that anticipation. And yeah, I'd throw it. He's not even there on the out route, and I'm going to throw it and trust my guy to get there. Again, throwing to a spot. Richard Sherman said, nothing about the read was right. If that was 7-on-7, that would have been an interception. And then Kurt Warner said, I will respectfully disagree. So again, there's this little back and forth going on with Kurt Warner and this play. So if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification, because I'm thinking maybe tomorrow or Monday, but tomorrow's football Sunday. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching football and you're not going to want to watch this. So I'm thinking Monday. We're going to react to this video. We're going to see what Kurt Warner saw and if we agree or disagree. I have not watched it yet, so we're going to watch it together with fresh eyes. So follow along. So back to talking about Mike McDaniel and the hot seat. So Tom Pelissero was on Rich Eisen podcast, and this is what he had to say, because if you guys remember, before the Thursday Night Football game started, it was also reported, I think Adam Schefter reported it, or Ian Rappaport, that there is no rush, and Stephen Ross kind of wants to see this play out before they make any movement on the head coach. And this is what Tom Pelissero said now after starting 0-3.
What happens with the Dolphins at 0-3? Any temperature, pulse check of Stephen Ross here that's worthy of looking at, or the Dolphins aren't even thinking about this sort of stuff?
Here's what I would tell you, Rich, because there's going to be people who talk about that game last night, which was a loss still, even though they were certainly competitive in that game, as well. They saved their jobs. I never got the sense, in speaking with people and understanding the situation, I never got any sense that this was even a consideration. Now, you lose 100-0 last night. A lot of different things can change. That was not that.
So essentially what he's saying is, regardless if there was a win or loss last night, no one was getting fired.
That type of game. You saw that they were competitive, especially on the offensive side of the football. You got the ball in the hands of Tyreek. You got the ball, at least in the end zone, once to Jalen Waddle. You really seem to have found something in Ollie Gordon. The issues that they ran into were very much the issues we've seen through the course of this season, and a lot of it boils down to Tua Tagovailoa. I know that the quarterback gets, more of the credit than they should when you win. They get more of the blame when you lose. But he's got 5 turnovers this season, and they have been some big ones, and they've been some fundamental ones. You go back to week 1 in Indianapolis, Lou Anarumo just calls a standard zone drop, and Tua throws a ball right to Leatu Latu that looks like he's targeting him on the play for a pick, as that thing kind of got away from him. Last week against the Patriots, there were operational issues late in that game too, which were not great. But Tua, from a decision-making standpoint, it wasn't great. Then, and I heard you guys talking about this in the last segment, there's Tua's version saying, hey, he just made a great play. There's McDaniel's version saying the ball's got to go to the flat. When I watched that play back, and I am not, a quarterback guru, you certainly could follow up, Rich. You've got enough of those guys in the rotation on this show. But that play, which is a concept, by the way, the Dolphins don't run a lot. I know that there was a comment made by Terrell Bernard that, well, we saw things on tape. They don't run that play a whole lot. When I watched that play and knowing what it's supposed to look.
So a little pushback on that one. They ran that exact same play last week against the Patriots, like the exact same play. But the difference is Tua threw to the out instead of the in. So
look like the whole thing looks rushed. Watch Tua Tagovailoa on that play. He's in the shotgun or the pistol on that play, but there's still supposed to be a drop. He kind of gets it and doesn't entirely look off the flat, and then just kind of comes back and his feet are stuck in cement. The whole thing just looked like it was sped up. And so when the timing is off and the angles are off, if there's things with your drop or the timing of the play, that creates opportunities for defenders to make plays on the football. There's obviously other things that happened in that game last night. The Zach Sealer punt block. Why are they trying to block the punt? Why is Zach Sealer on the field? Why is Zach Sealer anywhere near Bill Burr, or the new punter, Cameron Johnston for the Bills? And then the Jordan Brooks one, where it looks to me, I've watched that play back because it was running over and over on a loop on TV this morning. I've watched it 10 times. It looks like Brooks is kind of, he maybe is giving them the business a little extra, but then he's trying to ease off and he kind of falls awkwardly. Official throws the flag. You just can't put yourself in that type of a position. But in terms of, if you're looking for, has Mike McDaniel lost the locker room? Have the leaders bailed on this thing? Does Tyreek Hill look like a guy who's going to push the eject button? I don't sense any of that there, and I don't sense that in the building. The other part of this, Rich, and I know you alluded to this as well, the Dolphins are very much tied to Tua for the 2026 season. He is due, forget the cap hits if you cut him, he is due $54 million fully guaranteed in 2026. And if he's still on your roster, I think it's the 3rd day of the league year in March, which when you own $54 million fully guaranteed, it's a good bet he is. Another $3 million in 2027 becomes fully guaranteed. So if you move on from, let's say, Mike McDaniel right now, which again, I've never gotten the sense that was a consideration 3 weeks into a 17-game season. What purpose is it serving? What are you trying to get out of the next 14 games? And oh, by the way, then you're locking yourself into we have to hire a new head coach for 2026. And that head coach is going to be told, all right, we got $54 million in Tua. What are you going to do with him? This has to be your quarterback. That may not be palatable to a lot of people. I mean, there's not enough said, and I don't mean to just be a Mike McDaniel defender here, but there is not enough talked about with the hoops that Mike McDaniel has to jump through on a week in, week out basis to design a game plan for a quarterback who can't get hit. You can't have him holding the ball. You can't have him designed runs. You can't really run quarterback sneaks. We've seen some of the, in relative terms, the least athletic quarterbacks in the NFL get exposed at times as runners. Tom Brady ran a pass route in a Super Bowl. It didn't end well, but they put that in the game plan. You can't do that with Tua. You can't run a naked bootleg. You're not going to run zone read with him just to keep people honest. If you watch the game last night, whether it's he's not trusting the protection, whether it's he doesn't want to get hit, or he's been told don't get hit, he's not stepping up in the pocket. Everything when there's pressure, he's going out the back of the pocket and he's flushing left. And all those things combined make it really hard to produce on a week in and week out basis, that even when you draw up a play that maybe has a chance to succeed, he either doesn't go the right spot with it, or the timing and the drop is off. It's just a lot of different things that go into this. And having said all that, Rich, they've still, if you look at the schedule on the other side of the bye, they've got 4 or 5 winnable games coming up here where they've got a chance to get back in it, but they've got to get better as a team. They've got to clean up those self-inflicted errors, and Tua's got to play a lot better than he's played through these first 3 weeks.
So he's 100% correct when it comes to Tua and his contract. You're not cutting Tua. You can trade him, and trading him will save cap space, but you have to find the right players and the right people or team to accept that trade, because again, you're going to get Tua for 1 year, and obviously we would take on some of his cap, so it wouldn't be the whole 54 million and yada yada. So, there's that big fat question mark about Tua next year. But to his point of what good do you get by moving on from him, McDaniel, I can see both sides of the coin with that one, because you move on from McDaniel, you can start to see what's at the core of this team, right? Because McDaniel's going to, and Alan Poupart talked about this yesterday on The Collective, Mike McDaniel's going to try to save his job. So he's not going to want to see what we have in certain players. Whereas if you have an interim head coach, they might be more willing to and open to seeing what we have in younger guys and moving on from other guys and all that stuff. So it's a big fat question mark. But again, on the other side of it, I wouldn't be against firing Grier and then finding your GM while the season's going on. And then I talked about this last year. I said the same thing. I think when we lost to the Titans, I was like, time to move on. Fire Grier. They won't. Not yet, anyway. Fire Grier. Find your GM. Hire him. And have that GM now watch Mike McDaniel for the rest of the year. And again, I said the same thing last year. He went what, 6-3 at the end of the year. You have your GM watch him and be like, oh, okay, you could do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to get you the players that I think will benefit your scheme, and not go off of the fact that you want receivers and you want pass rushers. No, I understand what you want. This is what the team needs. And then I'm going to do that. So, that's what I would do. Will Stephen Ross? No. And I'm not holding my breath that they will. But the whole Tua situation, again, we're going to get into that in a second, because we're going to read Barry Jackson's article where he talks about Tua's contract and everything. It's a tricky situation, because again, it would be where you would find a team that has the cap space that would take on Tua. Obviously, you might eat some of the cap, but it's more about moving off from him and not losing cap space. You see what I'm saying? Because again, post June 1st trade, you save about 40 million. So if you can somehow find a team, hey, look, we'll trade you Tua, you give us a 7th and we'll pay 10 million or 15 million of his contract, you still save money. You see what I'm saying? There can be some type of workaround. Now, his contract and everything, and we'll get into that right now, talking about what Barry Jackson had to say. So this is what he said: 10 questions I can't stop thinking about in the wake of Thursday's 31-21 loss. He says, number one, what exactly did the Dolphins give? Why exactly did the Dolphins give Tua $167 million guaranteed after a 2023 season in which he went 1-6 against good teams and couldn't muster more than 22 points in any of those games? This isn't a second guess. Before Miami gave him that contract, we said there was no need to rush into the decision. Miami would have had Tua under contract through 2026, a fifth-year option in 2024, and holding the ability to franchise tag him in 2025, 2026. Again, if you go back on this channel, I was one that said they should just let him play the fifth-year option and see if he can duplicate what he did in 2023. I was one of them. Forget taking the risk on a player with a concussion history. The body of work in that year before the extension simply didn't warrant that kind of money. For the second consecutive week, Tua threw an interception late with a chance to be a hero. That really, Terrell Bernard said that was really a good play by the defender. The linebacker made a great play on that. In his career, when trailing by one score and 5 minutes left, he now has a stinky quarterback rating of 75 with 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Overall, it was a typical Tua performance against a good team, some good, but not good enough. He closed out. We know the stats. The Dolphins are 2-10 in the last 12 games against good teams. And here were the points, talk about that. The one game in which Tua led the offense, top 23 points against a good opponent, was a loss last year in Buffalo. Let's be clear, the offensive line and his teammates are far from blameless here, but the great quarterbacks usually tie or win games like the past two, not continue to throw interceptions. The body of work is awful, but it also isn't nearly good enough for the 6th highest paid quarterback in the NFL at $53 million annually. But the Dolphins made the decision, and consequence of parting ways would be devastating in the next year. If the Dolphins cut Tua before June 1st, the dead money cap hit would be $99 million before falling to $67 million after June 1st. Trading him before June 1st would be $45 million hit on the Dolphins' books. Trading him after June 1st would be $13 million cap hit, but would be followed by a significant cap hit in future years. All of these numbers are courtesy of Over the Cap. So again, trading him would be the better option, but you kind of screwed yourself by giving him the contract that you did. And again, I will continue to tell you, you can go back and read my tweets and watch my videos. I did not want to give him that contract extension. I wanted him to play on the 5th-year option because, yes, it's all nice, fine, and dandy that he had a great 2023, but I needed to see it more than once to pay him a big contract. Then this is the second thing he was thinking of. Why were the Dolphins even rushing the punter aggressively after they forced a Buffalo punt with the score tied at 21? Zealer regrettably roughed the roughing the kicker penalty, which wasn't egregious, but a penalty nonetheless. Gave the Bills a first down, setting up the game-winning touchdown. Why even rush there and take that risk? Sealer said, I can't make stupid errors like that. Essentially, Mike McDaniel said that the whole thought process was him doing that is rushing the punter's motions and kind of rushing him into kicking the ball. It was dumb. It was a dumb decision, and it shouldn't have even happened. Why is the front seven not better? Bradley Chubb had his 3rd sack on the season, but Terrell Dotson's sack was the only one other than the other Miami to go to Josh Allen. What's more, the Bills ran for 167 yards on 5.8 yards per carry. For the 3rd consecutive game, the Dolphins couldn't create a turnover, and they did not produce a single tackle for loss beyond 2 sacks. That's not good enough for a front seven featuring Sealer, 4 skilled outside linebackers, Jordan Brooks, and first-round Kenneth Grant. Yes, 100%. You look at that Bills game, the secondary actually played much better than the front seven did, which is sad. Why are some of these pass rushers dropping into coverage? Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Oh, God, I'm so glad somebody else said it. because I keep saying it and I'm like, I bet you the professionals and the beat writers are probably all like, if I say it to them, they're like, Doug, you know what you're talking about. This is what you're supposed to do. Da 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 da, blah blah blah. Oh, so happy he said that. We saw it with Phillips last week with Sealer on a Bills first down conversion on Thursday. That's not a way to maximize your talent. Yes, thank you so very much. The 2nd and 15 that was converted, that was Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb dropped into coverage, and instead of staying in the middle of the field and playing his zone, he followed a receiver and left Moore butt naked open, who converted a 2nd and 15. And I get it, because Latu intercept Tua, but they were getting pressure. If we were consistently getting pressure and sacks and getting like 3 or 4 sacks a game, then it makes sense, because then all of a sudden you drop your guy back into coverage and it confuses the offensive lineman in front of you. But if you're getting no pressure, dropping guys back isn't going to confuse anybody. They're just going to have the quarterback drop back and go, oh, why is there a DT there? All right, well, I'm going to throw the crosser when he runs past him, because he ain't going to keep him. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I'm so glad that Barry said that. Number 5, he said, why did it take 3 games for the Dolphins to realize Ollie Gordon needs to play more? There is the problem with Mike McDaniel. Why did it take so long? Number 6, why did the Dolphins invest in a starting safety who missed 31 games in his first 4 seasons because of 5 different injuries? Should Miami be remotely surprised that Fatu Melifonwu is already out with a calf injury after beginning training camp injured? That's Chris Grier's MO. That's his special. You have an injury history. He's going to scoop you up and hope and pray that he stays healthy. And he didn't. Why did the Dolphins believe Keon Smith, a tackle for most of his life, would be competent fill-in guard for James Daniels after watching him struggle throughout camp? Miami finally benched him during the game, and the right side of the offensive line improved significantly after Daniel Brunskill entered. Brunskill's one error was the interception where he just allowed just straight pass rush. I was happy with that. I'm like, all right, McDaniel, you finally took your head out of your butt and you made the move. Keon Smith, you suck. Get him. Like, he is so much taller than Larry Borom. Like, every time I watched and I looked at the huddle, I'm like, God, 71 is huge. Why are you playing guard? He shouldn't have been. Why did Amazon Prime have a sideline reporter in the 4th quarter about the domestic violence allegations against Tyreek Hill? Either report it early in the game or don't report it at all. Trying to explain a estranged wife allegation. Yeah, I thought that too. All of a sudden, like right in the middle of the 4th quarter, they're like, oh, Tyreek Hill with a great catch. Did you know that he's in... What the crap was that? Number 9, why did this team keep committing mindless, thoroughly avoidable penalties? Last Sunday, it was the 2 delay of games on the final 2 possessions, with Miami trying to score the go-ahead touchdown. On Thursday, it was illegal man downfield penalties against Smith and Jonah, negating first down gains by Malik and Julian. Yes, and I said that, and I will shout out who asked me to explain it more, because now I'll be able to explain it more, because trying to explain things in typing is just impossible. Somebody asked me in the comment section, I want to be sure to say his name and shout him out. Why did I blame... Okay, Jeffrey Towers, 7222. He asked me, why do I blame McDaniel for the penalties? And it's for the simple fact that there is no repercussion for consistently messing up. That's why I blame Mike McDaniel. Prime example is Marcel Louis-Jacques came out with an article where in it he said everyone was fine cutting meetings, cutting practices. They were winning. But when you're losing, it's like you can't get mad at that. There was Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey being late and being fined. Like, it was just a consistent thing of everyone getting away with everything. Julian Hill had a fumble, went back on the field. Julian Hill, nice run, holding, was back on the field for the next play. There was no repercussions for messing up mentally. And being that there is none, it keeps happening because there's no fear of, I have to be on top of my game and not commit this, obvious avoidable penalty because I'll get benched or I'll get cut. There was none of that. It's Mike doesn't care. He just let Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey be late, and oh, look at this. We're all doing whatever the crap we want. This is fun. Oh, offsides. Oh, whatever. I'm not going to get in trouble. That's why I blame Mike McDaniel, because it starts at the top. Yes, obviously you got a rookie out there making a rookie mistake, but it starts at the top when you have vets also doing the same thing, like Jordan Brooks with the roughing the passer. Regardless if he got pushed over, get out of there. Whistle, it's dead, move on. It starts at the top. So if you had do you see Mike Tomlin's team with these penalties? Did you see a Gruden team, a Belichick's team, an Andy Reid team, any of these teams where they respect the head coach and no. And that's where, again, my problem is this team is so undisciplined and ill-prepared for these games. It starts at Mike McDaniel. Make sense? And then the last one he said is, among other issues perplexing me, why so much zone defense? Josh Allen opened 12 for 12 against Miami zone. Why has Willie Gay Jr. played only 11 defensive snaps in 3 games, including 8 against Buffalo? Why can you recognize the poor roster construction and owner Stephen Ross cannot? At least the Dolphins won't play a team with a winning record when the Jets visit on September 29th. All of his statements are 100% true. And that is, again, I hope you understand why I, titled this video, like what's really or who's really to blame, because you have Tua, and again, Tom Pelissero talked about it, and his struggles and his turnovers and all that stuff. And then we have Mike McDaniel and all the stuff that's coming out about him. And, Chris Kaufman says, so last week we had Mike McDaniel and Frank Smith taking passive aggressive postures with and through the media. And this week we have Mike McDaniel Tua taking passive aggressive postures with and through the media. So again, last week it was Frank Smith talking about we abandoned the run too much and blah, blah, blah. Then it was Mike McDaniel coming out and saying, this is why this happened, kind of making comments about each other, but through the media, not talking to each other. And now we have Tua coming out and saying this and that about the processing, and Mike McDaniel come out and saying Tua has to be better. It's a mess. And again, it starts at the top, but Mike's not going to get fired. And again, if I had to choose, I'm firing Grier, or I'm relieving him of his duties, and I'm finding a new GM. But hearing what Tom Pelissero said made me a little nauseous, because I'm like, so does that mean we're stuck with this in 2026? And does that really mean we're stuck with Tua in 2026 and that giant cap hit? Because real quick, we'll look at it. We could save cap space. Don't get me wrong. We can 100% save cap space. And I want to show you this so it makes you feel better, because again, when I heard that, it made me feel a little bit nauseous, right? So we'll go to calculator. We'll wait till 2026. We're not going to touch Tua. We can't touch Tua. Let's just say that. Boom. You cut Tyreek Hill, you got $21 million in cap space. Cut Bradley Chubb, you got $29 million in cap space. Cut Austin Jackson, you got $31 million in cap space. Can't cut James Daniels. Well, you can, but you don't need to. This is voided, so you don't save anything by cutting Zach Wilson. You don't save anything with Judon. We'll cut this one. You can get, you make 4 cuts and you can get $32 million in cap space, and you could do stuff with that, but you can't do anything with this, right? But here's the thing. If you can trade them. So let's watch here. 145, 176. Does it change? You can trade them, but who's going to trade for them? So you have about $32 million in cap space with 4 moves. And there might be other moves, right? Jordan Brooks, you can cut him. You got $37 million, right? If you really want to tear it down to the studs, you can make these moves and move on from certain players. Alec Ingold, boom, you can cut him. You get to $40 million, right? Now, you got Jalen Waddle, who will replace Tyreek Hill. You draft a younger receiver to be the number 2. You got Chop and Jalen Phillips is a free agent, but you got Chop, who will take over for Bradley Chubb. You got to get yourself a middle linebacker, and you got to get yourself a right tackle. but you're good. You got to make moves here and there, but you could do that free agency. You got $40 million in cap space, and I'm still drafting a quarterback. And again, if we can't move on from Tua until 2027, where we can cut him, then so be it. But let's not say that the sky's falling just yet. We can get cap space and still keep Tua. That's all I want you to know. We can get $40 million in cap space and still keep Tua. You're just moving on from guys you'd move on from anyway. Comment below. Let me know what you guys think. I had a nice long video for you guys. Who do you think's to blame? Right? Obviously Grier, but I'm talking about on the field stuff like that. Who do you put blame on? What are your thoughts on all the stuff I reported on? What's your thoughts and opinions? I'm very interested. I will see you Monday. You're gonna see me Sunday night. I'm gonna recap the Sunday game Sunday night, probably around like 10:30, 11. I'm going to recap every game Sunday because the Dolphins are playing, and I'm going to do it the 28th. So you're going to get that. And then Monday, we are breaking down Kurt Warner's film breakdown of the interception and maybe something else. So I will see you tomorrow. But like usual, stay classy and fins up.